So what are the tools and knowledge we need to, give dawah correctly? Because we don't want to like mislead people or give them bad knowledge. So how do we make sure we don't do that?
Yeah, so in addition to just like a weekend course or a 1 month course with IRA Canada or something like this, I think it goes without saying that the more Islamic knowledge we have, obviously the more it will benefit us in doing dawah, in responding to people's questions. Isn't that the case, right?
Mhm.
So, and I'm in need of my own advice here, right? But you asked me, so I'm saying that to enroll in fiqh classes, to enroll in Arabic language classes, right? This would be a good thing, because if it's just like social activism. There's a lot of Muslim social activism happening now in the West, but it's devoid of Islamic knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And so it can take the wrong direction sometimes, right? And so you're right, dawah can be the same way too. That most of us duat on social media, myself included, don't have any traditional Islamic training. I'm being honest. We don't have traditional Islamic training. So ideally, if we could marry the two, if we could bring together traditional Islamic knowledge along with the zeal and enthusiasm and skills of how to talk to people and to do dawah, that is the ideal. That is the ideal. So, inshallah, make dua. That's what I'm aiming for my son, for example. You know what I mean? I would love for him one day, I would love for him to do alamiya studies, to actually become an alim of the deen. But then what do you do with that alamiya knowledge? Well, not just hide in the masjid, right? But actually go out, and do the dawah and do the social activism. But it should be grounded, it should be anchored in Islamic knowledge. But so short answer is, brothers, just learn as much as you can, right? Just learn as much as you can, because the more you learn, the more it's going to come in handy when you're talking to non-Muslims, right? And however, and this might connect to one of your future questions. I forget, but at the same time, we lay Muslim, I certainly for myself, I am a lay Muslim. It doesn't mean that we should shy away from doing dawah either, And the reality is that most of the questions that you'll be asked, unless you're a debater on YouTube, unless you're doing formal debates, generally speaking, on the street level, in the classroom level, at the office level, most of the questions that you ask, most of the questions that people ask you, they're going to be the same, like 10 questions. They're going to be the same 10, 12, 15 questions again and again and again. So they probably are not going to ask you about the fiqh of jewelry. They're probably not going to ask you about whether the Eid al-Adha, Udiya, is that a sunnah or is that wajib? Is it wajib in this madhab or is it sunnah? Which way around? The average non-Muslim is not going to ask you these questions. The average Muslim is going to ask you about what? Violence, right? Jihad, right? So there's several verses that you just need to look at in the Quran to clarify. Hijab. Why do women wear hijab? Why can't you guys eat pork? And why do you have to fast? Why does God want you to go hungry? Like these are the same kinds of questions you'll get again and again. Why is the Muslim world in a mess? I mean, like, why is there a civil war happening in Syria, Iraq, or something like that? And you can decide on the best way to answer that, right? You can decide on the best way to answer that. You can say, I don't know what's happening in Syria. I haven't studied Syrian politics or history. I can talk to you about Islam, right? Or if you know a little bit about the situation there, then you can give them the answer. But my point is that even as lay people, we can do dawah because it's the same set of questions usually that you're going to be asked about again and again and again. And by the time you've answered that question 10 times, you feel confident about it. It's not a new thing. I'm sure, like, I can just take a guess. I'm sure all of you brothers, because you're interested in dawah, I'm sure you've talked about Islam with some of your non-Muslim friends in the past. I'm sure at some point all of you have been asked, why can men have more than one wife, for example, right? So by the time you've answered that question like 10 times, a dozen times, you become more and more confident in how to answer it. So it doesn't matter who you are, man. You can do dawah. Let me just add one more thing here. When we were doing street dawah a few years ago, there was an Indonesian sister that was joining us, and like she could not speak English very fluently, and she was not able to answer most people's questions. But I'm telling you, she gave more shahadas than the rest of us. She gave more shahadas than the rest of us. There was just something about her ikhlas and just her smile, and she just had a certain, mashallah, certain spiritual nur or presence, a sincerity about her that drew people to her, and she was able to give shahada to so many people. And I was watching her thinking, but I give better answers than she does, man. I've got better arguments than she does. But see, it's not just logical, right? It's not just about knowledge and information, right? It's also about ikhlas, your akhlaq, meaning your etiquette, how you interact with people. All of these things come together.